Hello, it's Brad Laurie or BlockchainBrad, and today I'm here with two gentlemen, Bill and Dom. They are both core members and co-founders of the NOIA network. Guys, thank you very much for your time today.
Absolutely.
Hi, Brad. Good to meet you guys.
Likewise, mate. It's a great honor to be able to speak with you both. I know you're very busy right now. Now, NOIA network, it's a very popular term right now. A lot of people are talking about what you actually do. A lot of people are trying to explore the very depths of the kind of technology that you bring to blockchain and beyond. You established very quickly that you are all about programmable internets. You're trying to enable the transition and to the next generation of internet design. And you're doing that with really innovative sort of thinking and technology. But let's dig deep into understanding what that means. Firstly, let's look at the history, pre-NOIA for a start. Now, Bill, I understand that you come from a lot of experience and expertise. You're certainly very well respected in the industry. Can you tell us a bit about what you've done pre-NOIA so we really understand the kind of the backdrop, the scene that you've set to come in and build this?
Yeah, well, once again, thank you for inviting us on your show. Yeah, I started working on the internet way back in 1988.
Right.
Back then, the National Science Foundation was funding the core of the internet called the NSFnet, and my role at that time was to write the network operations center tools that monitored and managed the infrastructure that really was the core of the internet. Around 1995, the internet migrated from a government-sponsored backbone to a commercial internet. And during that time, I was tasked with creating a business plan for what became the North American Network Operators Group, the coordination body for the North American internet. And during that time, I got a chance to meet all the new commercial operators that were replacing the government-sponsored backbone, and I made a lot of contacts with folks and was recruited by Jay Adelson to help co-found a company called Equinix, a very large global-scale data center company that focused really on the interconnection between the network operators and the public internet.
Right.
In 2008, I finished my career there, 10 years of a lot of fun, a lot of hard work. And today I'm amazed to see where it's gone since then. Today Equinix seems to be about a $40 billion company. So it's pretty amazing to see what's happened with that company. Now, my entire career, I've been focused on network performance, network analysis, business relationships, and really understanding the nature of how the internet works from an interconnection standpoint.
Right.
I wrote called the Internet Pairing Playbook that really talks about the dynamics of the internet. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, Brad. The internet really is kind of like a living organism in the sense that when you apply pressure on one side, it reacts and adjusts on the other side. So any adjustments in, say, regulatory framework within a country like Australia, for example, has implications for all of those around the globe that make use of that Australian infrastructure.
Absolutely.
So I've always been fascinating that interconnection and all the dynamics associated with the inside of the internet. So that's really the expertise and the background I bring into NOIA.
And Bill, thank you so much for letting us know. And it's great to hear that you have that kind of expertise in the internet specifically, because we want to, as consumers, users, in this very innovative and nascent space we call crypto and we call blockchain, we want to know that the teams have that kind of that experience behind them. And you certainly have done that. You would have heard about ARPANET. You would know all about the graduations, the iterations of the internet right from the beginning. And you're leading with Dom here as one of the co-founders in the NOIA network to really change the game in how internets can function in a decentralized way. So Dom, what about you, mate? Tell us a bit about how you got into NOIA network. What really inspired you to change things up?
So I started as in financial services industry, working in investment banking, and later I co-founded a startup named Telq. It's a call center software startup. Mainly, we have customers all around the world, so we already and I kind of right now other co-founders running the startup. While doing Telq, we kind of understood how to build a high performance networks, because in order to ensure a good call center operations, you need to have very good connectivity. So basically, by building the telq software, we kind of understood ins and outs of the networks, how to build scalable networks, how to make sure that the network is uptime 100% every second. So and then the blockchain boom started. We started to look at this technology only from personal interest, started to dig deeper, like how this can change the dynamic of how we understand things in general.
Right.
So, and after quite some time, we understood that we can use our existing knowledge of networks together with blockchain technology to help to solve some critical design issues the internet currently faces.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is how we started, just purely organically, without any push. Like it was organic, by trying to understand like what could be done more efficient, what can be more oriented to the future needs of the businesses and people around the world.
Absolutely. And Don, what was interesting too, I just want to jump in. Now, one of the things you'd done before blockchain was that core driver of decentralization for the network you built, is you built in peer-to-peer, what you call CDN systems. You had a lot of experience there before you introduced blockchain. What was, how important is that, having that skill base, that knowledge base, to be able to transition into something like blockchain?
Sure. So we've been running the testnet of more than 5,000 nodes for about a year right now. It has different stages, but I think we first so officially it's like 9 months, but we've been running it for more than 9. I think it's already a year. So we have more than 5,000 nodes. Community downloaded those nodes. They run the nodes. They help the network. They committed the resources they have. So currently, it led us to create first in the world open source peer-to-peer technology, content delivery technology, which we call NOIA Cache. So currently, NOIA Cache has capacity to serve like more than 150 websites across the world. It is fully distributed. We have nodes in every place around the world. We do a lot of testing, a lot of research. So by doing this research and by running the testnet, because we really took it very seriously. We started and then we put a lot of resources in developing it. And after a while, after doing this research, we kind of understood what are the real problems the internet faces, and we kind of evolved as a startup to this programmable internet concept, where kind of spotted the main problems, those problems that are not that visible, that are not so popular in terms of blockchain communities around the world, because people usually talk about sharing the resources of internet, but they usually forget about how this internet is really built, like what it really is, like what nature of it. So with programmable internet, we believe that we are tackling the basis of the core problem. So
and that's what I want to explore. A perfect segue, actually, looking at more of that problem. But just to recap, that cache that you've built, the NOIA Cache, 5,000 nodes already existing, your SDKs are built in with that, and a significant number of websites. Obviously, there's a lot of more information about that. We'll delve into the cache later in the interview. But I wanted to talk to you, Bill, about the problems inherent with the internet, because you know literally everything about it to date. You're an expert in it. Centralized structures existed, essentially since its first iteration with ARPANET. And now we're seeing, a lot of conversation about how to flip that on its head. So looking at what you guys call the mesh of mixed up cables, the tangled tech, I think they are good terms to describe the pre-existing state of internet. Do you want to talk us more about the problems inherent with the pre-existing state of the internet?
Sure. Some of the performance issues that we see come from, well, I'll take a step back and say it this way. In a previous job, one of the things I did is measure cloud-to-cloud connectivity, Google Cloud, Amazon, Azure, and so forth. And I distributed nodes all over the world because I wanted to measure the performance, the latency between all those nodes across those cloud performers. Now, I don't know if you know this, but these clouds make bank, serious money on network. Everything into the cloud is free, but everything you send out is charged on the order of 8 cents or 12 cents, kind of those kind of round numbers per gigabyte. Yeah. Now,
wow.
if you have a pipe that you're using and it's always full, always being used, you're going to be spending about $25, $26 per megabit per second in a market where the normal price is less than $1 per megabit per second. Wow. Now, you don't notice this because you're being charged on a per gigabyte basis. But basically, these cloud guys are making so much money on that egress traffic. My underlying assumption was that connectivity must be great, because the better the connectivity, the faster the TCP window opens, the more traffic that you send out, the more money they make. So they're motivated to have the best connectivity that they could possibly provide to make the most money. Right. But what I found was, if you look at the matrix that I produced, all the A sides sending traffic to all the Z sides, there wasn't a single day that went by when there wasn't some kind of strange anomaly in the data. Sometimes you'd have packets from, say, Japan going to Ashburn, Virginia, and it would be on a regular basis like 174 milliseconds. I don't remember the actual number, but let's say that, for example, 170 some milliseconds. And then for some reason, for 4 hours, you'd see it jump up to 225 milliseconds and stay there. Now, if you have a latency sensitive application, one that expects the connectivity is going to be fairly consistent, if not very low jitter, then you're going to be very surprised. Most people don't do that kind of measurement, but you do see these excursions on a daily basis. So that's one of the challenges. We chased that down to find out what the underlying cause was, and it has to do with an auto-optimization feature that adjusts traffic load across the underlying links to make them balanced. So because initially my traffic was not balanced, initially it was balanced, then it went to a state where we have to balance our links. My traffic is now going a much more circuitous route to get to the destination.
Right. That makes sense.
We have a couple of anomalies. That's one of them. Another one has to do with routing, hijacks, and so forth.
Right, so clearly routing, and it's really interesting that there were algos put in place essentially through these centralized mechanisms, which is what you're talking about through that cloud system. But I think that's the big thing we need to talk about is, you know, the fact that these were still centralized, and certainly there were big entities and enterprises profiting from this system.
Right. Just one thing real quick. What's really interesting about the solution that NOIA is putting in place is that when these anomalies happen, they can not only be detected, but also routed around. So you can remediate the problem, not just detect these anomalies like I had done in the previous job. And it does that using a technology called segment routing, like forcing traffic along a path that you construct based upon the experienced latency, the measured latency, the measured network performance. You can get a much better network path during those times when things are going a little crazy in the middle.
Exactly. And that segmented routing, I really want to focus on that in this interview because it is literally your secret sauce. But Dom, I want to talk to you a bit more about the problem firstly, to really itemize some of the things you mentioned. One of them is the fragmented aspects, design limitations. You've really gone to town on talking about the BGP routing, the inherent problems with that. So do you want to comment on that a bit more before we go into the genuine solution that NOIA bring?
Sure. So I think Bill just explained the consequences of BGP inefficiencies. So basically, but if you go to the core, I think we will find out that the internet itself is a creation of networks of anonymous systems. Yeah. So basically, internet is a network of networks. And if you look at this way, you will see that those networks differ, and they differ in capacity, in size, They are based in different countries, so you have different regulations. So internet is very fragmented in its essence. So this fragmentation it causes those kind of problems, and the fragmentation also determined the design of the protocol, which was Border Gateway Protocol, created in 1994 and is still used today as the main routing protocol on the public internet. So it is an old protocol. It was created to operate in the network of networks, in the internet, which is governed by different independent actors. Okay, so BGP itself from the very first day had some design limitations, which caused some serious security problems and some inefficiencies that Bill just described.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty well known, I think BGP and the problems are well discussed topic around the world. You have companies like Google, Microsoft, Cloudflare, like releasing the papers and analyzing these problems. Like these are very well-known problems, and everybody understand that we might need a new way to somehow handle the internet, somehow how we manage the traffic worldwide, how we control those networks, because it really creates some huge problems for enterprises, for example, worldwide. That's why most of them use overlay networks. But even though they use overlay networks, still it causes huge losses every year for related to network crashes, network link disruptions, so IT crashes related to some network performance issues, those kind of things. So, and also regular people, because I think right now a lot of people, especially in the United States, are usually very concerned about their internet connection. We have lots of good positive feedback coming from people, because the thing is that usually the infrastructure, especially in the US, are not that good, and people feel that the internet sometimes stops working, sometimes it becomes so slow, sometimes it becomes unstable, and especially and on the other hand, you have privacy issues, you have security, those kind of things. So
yes,
everyone agrees that the internet needs a new design. It's very hard to do that, because some projects claim that they do, but it's so hard, because you already have huge actors, you already have huge players in the industry, and they already have some significant power, to control the internet. So in order to break it, we need something that's open, something that is standardized, something that is accepted by everyone, and something that can unify the infrastructure.
Well, that's very well said, Dom. I mean, I want to jump in there. You said things like open. We're going to look at how open source you are. To use the pun, I suppose, of rerouting the internet itself. You're literally doing that, and you're doing it in a way that really hasn't been done before, and with a team that literally have that experience. So let's go into the solution that is NOIA Network for a moment. Now, Bill, I wasn't joking before about that pun, because you literally are using segmented routing to do this. It's very innovative. It is your secret sauce. Do you want to tell us a bit about specifically what it means and why it is such an integral part of the NOIA network to do all the things that Dom's saying, to literally change the game from and solve those problems that we currently see, where there's just too much centralized control, too much top-down pressure on these current internet systems?
I think I should continue, because I brought the topic of openness and the topic of like sharing and creating a unified infrastructure. So I think segment routing serves as a key metric here. Why? Because segment routing enables any kind of router to understand what's written in a data packet header. Okay, so it makes routers to understand what's written in the data packet header, and then read the data packet header and act upon the instructions programmed in the data packet. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that that this protocol was created to basically have a much more dynamic, fast, and user-friendly interface to manage the networks, to manage the packets. which flows across the network. But this protocol, since big players like Cisco and Barefoot and recently Juniper started to support segment routing, so they started to make their new routers understand segment routing protocol. And if they do understand segment routing, it means that they do understand what they can read the packet headers and thus act accordingly. So
Right.
so segment routing brings the thing of programmable internet, because if you can program the packet itself, if you can program the packet header itself, and if you can send it to the public internet, and if there are routers which can read the packet header and reroute the packet or encrypt the packet or do whatever with that packet, but if there are routers which can read every single packet and to know what to do next, then it means that you're creating something programmable. It means that you can program the data, so data becomes smart. So segment routing brings a concept of smart packets, basically. So you program the packets, you send it to the internet, and then the internet becomes you can really solve these core problems by doing that, because it becomes 10 times more dynamic, efficient, and imagine how flexible it becomes, if you can manage it using packet per packet, basis.
Right. Well, Bill, in the context of what we often discuss in the more consensus-driven and the more infrastructurally driven systems that we see emerge now, we talk about asynchronous models. Now, when we're talking about packets, we're talking about really bringing forth a new way of segmenting literally the routing structure. But how does that also affect sort of the asynchronicity of the system in terms of, can you operate and do this with individual packets, or do you have to do everything to a whole network? What's the flexibility in bound? What's the efficiency specifically in how these packets can operate?
Yeah, well, that's one of the beautiful things about segment routing is you can go across any infrastructure that you need to get from one segment router to the next segment router. So if there aren't participating Cisco routers that are doing segment routing on the network you're traversing, it simply uses standard internet protocols and routing to get from one segment router to the next. It's once the segment router receives a packet that it looks and sees, where do I forward this on to next? And when it goes all the way down through the different paths, it either goes through and uses IPv6 segment routing, or it goes through automatically to get to the next segment router that knows how to deal with the segment routing stuff.
Right.
And this is really powerful because, one of the things that you learn about internet routing is BGP routing will happily send traffic through a very congested link that might be losing 20%, 30%, 40% of its packets, and just drop them on the floor with the idea that higher level protocols like TCP will do the retransmissions, or protocols like WebRTC will deal with it and adjust. We don't think that's really going to be the best way to advance the internet to the next generation. We believe that there's going to be a much more dynamic solution for routing traffic that will include things like segment routing, traffic measurement, and adjusting that path dynamically based upon machine learning technologies that take a look at the empirical performance across an entire system and make adjustments based upon what is seen in the data, not just whether this guy can deliver that packet eventually, maybe, best effort, all the way to the end destination.
Right, and what's really interesting too, John mentioned this before, and it's a huge empirical sort of development, and that is that Cisco, Juniper, and other very leading and respected entities, even all the way to Microsoft, I would imagine, are really paying attention to this kind of technology that you have built, because that, and we can talk about a bit more of the SRv6, just the things that you built into your engine, that is the NOIA network, they are really trying to put forth a new narrative, a new way of transforming the internet from the grassroots, from the ground up. So how important are these suite of features that you've built in? Let's talk about those a bit more, starting with the SRv6 and perhaps others that we don't know about.
You want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
so SRv6 is basically Because segment routing uses some features of IPv6. Yeah.
Right.
So as we know, IPv6 adoption is increasing, and in upcoming probably 10 years, we'll see, the majority. I think the internet will be fully IPv6. That's a given fact, and it takes time to get the adoption. But we see the same trend with segment routing as well. That right now the major router producers are picking up and starting to support segment routing. Linux already supports segment routing. So basically right now you can install a virtual router on your computer, yeah, just a simple app, yeah, on your computer, and you can become a segment routing router and join the programmable internet, so that's why it's so powerful, because if companies that are doing their own protocols usually get into the problem where they are limited by their exposure, by their reach of by the infrastructure they have. But since we are focusing on segment routing, which is widely adopted protocol, yes, where Cisco and other producers and big companies around the world already starting to support it, we believe that if we can, and we also use blockchain technology in combination with segment routing, which
Right.
which brings this, which really enables this concept of programmable internet. So segment routing plus IPv6 is SRv6. It's a very technical name. We use it to describe the technological core, the basis of which unifies the infrastructure. Because if every infrastructure around the world, I'm talking about, every router, basically it could be a router on your computer, it could be a router in a data center, an ISP router. If that infrastructure in 5 years will start supporting segment routing and IPv6, then we have an environment where the infrastructure can speak the same language, basically, and then we can put distributed ledger on top of it, and then you have programmable internet.
Makes a lot of sense, Dom, and I think you've clarified that really well. And you've made a really important point that it's the combination between the blockchain and the segment routing that is actually the true secret sauce that you created. It's not just the segment routing alone. Now, in that context, let's talk about mass adoption, because that's obviously the imperative for NOIA Network, is to become properly adopted globally through standardization, which is something you've talked about in your recent talks, Dom. So talk us through the processes involved in becoming standardized, becoming something that can be authentically global in the coming years.
Yeah. You mean about the roadmap? Yeah.
Well, even just down to how do you get segment routing integrated? What's that? Yeah. So obviously part of the roadmap, but what's planned in terms of really getting people to switch, getting enterprises, users, consumers?
So we designed this software to basically lower the barrier as much as possible for people to start using the network and for companies to start adopting it. So for the node runners, because we are focusing on creating, basically our motto is that we need to get at least one node in every single backbone around the world. Okay, so if we will do that, then we will connect all the backbones into one unified programmable network. Okay, so the goal is to have every node in every single ISP backbone around the world, and we're doing this by encouraging by doing partnerships with data center providers. We have plenty of them. So by using the partnerships, we are building we are installing segment routing routers in different servers across the world to provide, to standardize and to unify those different backbones into one network.
Right.
That also encourages our community to host the nodes. Yeah. So once a community member runs a node, yeah, then his node becomes a router, and then we can connect his internet connection to the programmable internet. Okay.
Right.
So at this point, we are creating as user, like we are trying to use existing virtual router softwares, open source softwares, which are widely used already, and we install that software with our node software into a computer or into a server, and then that server or computer becomes a part of the programmable internet. So this is how we are getting the adoption in terms of the infrastructure side, and in terms of the adoption side, there are also two very good use cases we're focusing on. So the first is the use case for the regular internet user, because as I said, we already know, because as I said, we run the test net for about a year, so we did a lot of tests, yeah, and a lot of research and a lot of development. So we already know that we can improve the internet to a certain point where we can solve some critical user experience issues to make people's internet better, faster, basically. So we give them the best experience at any given second possible. So that's why we are right now focusing on releasing an app which will enable people to get the best internet connection possible, given their location and their internet provider, but the best possible, which will let to solve some critical user experience issues, especially for gamers, especially for people who watch a lot of live streaming online, those kind of things.
Right. And just to interrupt there for a moment, now the fact that you're building this app in, and I think you can continue commenting on this, this actually does break down those barriers for access, and especially for those regions, excuse me, in the world where perhaps, the app for their phone, for example, might be the only means for them to access something. Are you opening up the network so that it can become more global because of this app? I ask you this because already you've integrated with certain regions in the world, Madagascar, Laos, South Africa, several regions, in fact, that you've already focused on. But is this going to build this out into a genuinely global network because it's so seamless, because it's so easy?
Because it can unify every existing piece of infrastructure. That's why it's so powerful, because it uses standardized protocols like segment routing. And blockchain plays a crucial role here, because it wouldn't be possible to create a programmable internet without a proper database. Yeah. But in order to keep the internet decentralized and still have a database, you have to have distributed database. You have to have a distributed ledger. Yeah. So this is where the blockchain comes in. And we genuinely believe that we have a very, very real, serious use case for blockchain, which really is determined. And the only way to move forward for the internet is basically using blockchain, because it's other ways. We don't see any other way moving forward. So that's why it's so powerful. That's why we feel that we're doing the right thing, because we are behind the protocols which are right now adopting, that protocols are right now becoming popular, the latest internet routing protocols, together with the blockchain, which supports those protocols by providing this open ledger system where you can have this cross-network settlement system, and provide, an ability to basically share, trade, sell, buy internet as a commodity. So internet eventually, with our model, with programmable internet should become like a commodity,
Yes.
become a tradable commodity, which will ensure the maximum utilization of the existing infrastructure.
Yes, and I want to discuss that more in the tokenized aspect. But Bill, I want to talk to you for a moment with regard to the blockchain, because when we talk about the plethora of consensus options we have now, I wanted to find out more from you, not just why the blockchain, Dom's explained that, but why the specific blockchain design or elements you're building in to this whole holistic approach. Because obviously you want to make sure that blockchain optimizes NOIA as a network. So why the choices you've made as you built the blockchain into this?
I'd like to answer that with a specific use case, because what we're doing was not possible to do a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the network called spread networks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but
No.
one of the things that they do is connect Chicago to New York for the financial traders, the automated trading systems. They want the lowest latency possible for that path. So what spread networks did is they realized that most people had to go around the mountains between Chicago and New York, and there's certain increases in latency that turns into.
Mm-hmm.
Spread networks did is they tunneled through the mountain in order to get the fiber to go through the shortest possible path.
Right.
And as a result, they have two services. One is to provide fiber path that is matching the existing latency that everyone else has. So they participate in that commodity market. So what they do is they take that very low latency path and they take the fiber and they put it on spindles. They keep it going around multiple spindles in a fiber optic spindle in order to match the latency as if they had gone around that mountain. And then if you pay the big bucks, then you can have that path that goes straight through the mountain. And of course, all the automated traders are using that very expensive capacity, but only during business hours. That leaves 6 hours before and after the business day when that network capacity is unused. Now, folks in the past have talked about things like, well, maybe you could sell that capacity, but look at all that's involved in selling that capacity. You need to turn on a router on each end of that device, plug those in, have invoicing and purchase orders between companies that are not really interested in selling to the public, and all that friction makes it very difficult to sell. But with blockchain, look at how cool this is. You could turn up segment routers on each side, and as Tom mentioned, they could be soft segment routers that just have to be turned on. You can configure in the distributed internet exchange that this capacity is available during those off hours, and it will automatically configure the segment router to provide that connectivity. And because it is the lowest latency path between Chicago and New York, that traffic will prefer to go over that lowest latency path. It's because the calculations in the routing engines look for the lowest latency, lowest packet loss path. And that great path is now available for sale. So they can monetize something that they couldn't previously monetize using the frictionless blockchain platform.
Got it. So essentially the blockchain provides that bandwidth marketplace. You know, as you said, that process, that pathway is shortened, it's optimized, and it's timeless. You're not conditioned by time, as you mentioned before. But let's move it back though to the blockchain for a second. You know, how do you deduce which blockchain consensus? What are the elements what is the process you guys had to go through to decide how and what types of blockchain consensus models you're going to use?
So we took an example of Stellar, because we need to focus on a distributed ledger technology more than a blockchain technology. So those so people usually say blockchain, but those there are two types of blockchains. Yeah, one is a purely distributed ledger technology, and the second is a blockchain as Bitcoin, for example.
Right.
So we decided to take an example from Stellar, because we did a huge research on Stellar, a lot of testing, a lot of doing hard work in order to understand how Stellar works. Then we took example of Ripple a bit, some technological things, and then we kind of understood that Stellar model together tied with some our native smart contracts and everything which is related to the networking stuff, kind of really makes sense, and kind of gives a good settlement layer for microtransactions. So basically, Byzantine fault tolerance protocol model together with like generally proof of stake validation. Usually we see that it's not about the speed of the transactions. It's more about the how you enter and change the state on the ledger itself. Okay, it's kind of different technology, because if you look at the layer ones right now, you know, usually these blockchains, as people know it, they compete for transaction per second because they need to enable huge, like they want to enable applications running on their blockchain. In our case, we need a distributed ledger which will have a native exchange, and Stellar has the exchange. So we kind of also built our model on that premise.
Right. And Dom, I really appreciate this, because what you're saying is the pragmatic approach is the sort of the tact you're taking, or the approach.
That's the best approach to tackle this problem in particular, about creating this cross-layer settlement system. So because so our project, usually people ask, like, are we a protocol, or are we, a DApp, like this very traditional, measurement of what your project is. And I usually say we're not a DApp, we're not a protocol as you understand. We are a project more similar to projects like Ripple and Stellar, which create, one global settlement layer for transactions for a specific purpose. So,
yes. So essentially, you're an ecosystem, as you said, for a specific vertical that you're trying to go global with. And it's great to know that you've really assessed the different types of consensus mechanisms, and then really try to meld them to suit your needs. I think that's the thing we wanted to make sure that you've been doing. Now, with regard to privacy, either of you gentlemen could explain this to us. Obviously, right now, there's the permission and permissionless discussion and debates happening, questioning about whether or not it's possible to build in privacy to DLT networks. You're clearly addressing this. I've read into it. Do you want to talk a bit more about how you're building privacy in to make sure it's possible?
In terms of the discussion about the permissionless ledgers, I think that we kind of we understand that we need to build a community of masternode validators, which are trusted, because we're talking about real adoption. We're talking about enterprises buying and selling internet transit as well as regular people.
Right.
So we understood that we first need to start with a foundational program for the first community of masternodes, which would be trusted institutions, and we will do KYC ourselves at the very beginning, and those trusted institutions will start the ledger, and then after that, we'll have a model where masternodes can join, and then other validators should trust that validator or not, and there's some mechanism which determines which validators are validated and which are excluded from the ledger.
Right, and so clearly, Bill, that also adds another layer of security to the network by having these masternodes built in. Will there be some sort of accreditation process in that build? Because obviously Dom's alluding to substantial players being able to be members of that masternode network and team. What are the requisites, and what does it do for the network?
The masternodes?
Yeah.
So the masternodes, once you want to settle a transaction on decentralized internet transit exchange, for example, you want to buy a transit through a certain node. So basically right now we have this huge community of nodes. You want to send traffic through those nodes. So you have to buy an internet transit capacity from their devices. So then you have to do a transaction on the ledger, and that transaction should be validated, because you need to sign this transaction. So this transaction is validated by the validator nodes, the master nodes, and those master node validators, they validate, and this is their main job, to keep the integrity of the ledger, to keep the single database, and synchronize the state between each other. So basically, this is what powers the ledger.
And what's interesting too is often when you have parties like obviously the ones you're preparing for to work with, they believe in your technology long term. Often those masternode holders are those that aren't there for that short play. Now, with regard to partnerships, you've already alluded to some very substantial ones. Can we talk more about some of the partnerships in the pipeline that you're able to disclose at this point, given that, you are still, very much at the beginning stages, but already talking to some substantial enterprises and entities that really, bring forth a significant weight in this space?
We have many partnerships that we can't announce yet because we are still working with big names, and it requires a lot of NDA stuff, around it. But we already proved that we have partnerships with one of the biggest data center companies in Europe, for example, eShelter. I think it's the biggest data center company. Also, companies like 100TB, which has 29 data centers worldwide. We also partner with companies which operate in the networking space for about 20 years, and we are about to announce those partnerships very soon. We also have customers already using the network, starting from some gaming companies. You already have these names on our website, like TutoTunes, and data centers like Cherry servers, companies starting. So we are kind of right now super busy on like the partnership scope and the customer interest we have right now is kind of make us super busy, and we also need to launch the token because we need to step this important step towards the mainnet, and towards like enabling the network itself. So currently we're like swapped with everything, but soon we promise community to announce a lot of good stuff we've been working on recently.
Absolutely. And Dom, I really do want to talk about that token launch in the way you're approaching that. But before we do, I just wanted to ask you with regard to the data center sort of action plan that you have. What about the US, for example? It's clearly a really significant market globally, even Asia, for example. What kind of data centers are you talking about, and what kind of enterprises are you talking to in those regions where surely they're knocking on your door? Surely they're hearing about segmented routing research that you're doing.
We work with a couple of very big names right now in terms of segment routing technology. And
like how big?
One of the biggest. But we're working on a technological level, and we're very happy about the progress. Everything's moving forward, and we'll see more news coming. Because
you're not giving away much, Dom.
I know that you're eager to hear some good stuff from us.
I am.
And before the launch of the token, I believe people also want to hear good things. And we've already been like releasing a lots of good news basically every day. So and of course we have much a lot of to announce. So the community will get a lot of good news in upcoming like 2 to 3 months. So yeah, working hard,
I appreciate that, man. Now let's talk about the token launch. I read through it. I tried to understand exactly how you're approaching this, but you guys are the best to explain this. You're doing it through 3 different areas: listing, you're going to do a membership program, which I'm really interested in learning about more, and also through a launchpad through Kovac. So gentlemen, would you like to explain exactly how you're approaching this token launch?
The token launch. So our goal basically is to create a sustainable token economy. Yeah, because we did a lot of research on the current infrastructures and of the current distributed systems, and basically what we see is that it is really a make it or breaking point if a project is able to create a healthy token economy or not. So we want, so right now, this is one of the main goals we have. And that's why we decided to quit the IEO path and go with a regular listing before doing a very small sale on Korean token launchpad. So we chose this direction because we think that IEOs are like usually associated with speculative behavior, and we have a lot of community members waiting to invest basically into our project and to start acquiring tokens, start using them soon. So and we see that usually people don't get access to the IOs right now.
Dom, I just want to jump in and say thank you on behalf of all the community. I really sincerely mean this, because everything you're saying is empirically evidenced in the past with IEOs. The privileged few get in, and we can already see that happening and playing out, but very few who are genuinely supporters of utilities and commodities get access to use this coin, or this token rather, early on. And often they are done for financial reasons and for short-term positions, for long-term. So it's great to hear you're doing something new. So let's talk about that. You acknowledged a problem in the IEO and even the ICO, and now you're addressing that with your approach.
Yeah. So right now, we kind of understood that it's not. We won't be able to provide any kind of support if we'll do an IEO in one of the most popular platforms, for example. But we sure can support the community with the airdrop program, which is pretty substantial, I would say. You can really double your holdings if you know, and community members can really, if they hold and if they believe into project, because we all know that they, in order to build this project, in order to go from 0 to 1, it will take some time, and people need to support the community, support the project. So that's why we encourage them by giving away substantial airdrop and encouraging.
Right. Well, let's talk about that now. You call it the Foundation Members Program. You respect the fact that there are people in the community who are supporting you, and you're rewarding them for their commitment to the token itself, to basically hold it. Now, do you want to talk us through? You've written up a table. It's very clear that it's time-based for the holding and the kind of incentives and rewards.
Yeah, so the table is pretty simple. It's so it's either 3,000 tokens, the first benchmark, then 30,000 tokens, the second benchmark, and the 300,000 tokens, the third benchmark. Yeah.
Right.
So if you have more than between 3,000 and 30,000, you get 10% every month for the 5 months. Yeah. If you fall into a second category of more than 30,000, you get 15% bonus. If you fall under 300,000, then you will get 20% bonus. Right. So every month for the upcoming 5 months, this program gonna last for the first 3 weeks of training on KuCoin. So basically, 3 weeks we will calculate the net buy of any wallet which bought tokens on KuCoin, and then we will take this percentage from the sum we calculated once we will take the snapshot after 3 weeks of trading, and then we will do checks every month in order to see if the tokens are staked. And if the tokens are in place, then we'll give bonus, the bonus I just mentioned before.
Right, got it. Now that's obviously a way in which you can really incentivize, reward, and show respect to those people who believe in your project long term. And I respect that immensely. Now, going back to your mentioning of KuCoin for a moment, July 22nd of July, is that the day when the listing is scheduled?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you anticipate, and why did you choose KuCoin?
Because we believe that KuCoin is very friendly for a retail user. I think they're one of the most user-friendly platforms in the blockchain space. And they have a pretty widely dispersed community worldwide. They have pretty good community in Europe. They have pretty good community in Asia. So both. We also have a huge community in Europe, so that was a good, I think, a good metric, and also because KuCoin has proved to be a secure, reliable, and trustworthy exchange to start with, because there were very good cases in the past when projects started on KuCoin and grew into bigger exchanges and grew the price of the token, increased the community engagement, and achieved some really great results. So that's why we think that KuCoin is a good exchange to start with, and to provide people right access to the liquidity and ability to acquire the tokens, to trade them, and later to use them.
Right,
So,
and I think it's a very fair comment that trade is on the agenda of some, but long term the idea is for those to essentially use this. This is what this network's all about. Now you said something interesting too, Dom, about you alluded to it's just the start. Do you have other exchanges in the pipeline as well planned that you're discussing with?
Of course we have, because we take this project like we know that by our design we and our expertise and our technology we consider ourselves as a serious project, and of course in order to move forward we need to go into bigger exchanges. So we already have a proper plan in place, already talking, already engaging. So definitely, of course, there'll be more exchange.
Right, and I have to say, I mean, obviously, with a project of your caliber, you could have chosen. Excuse me. I use the analogy of being dropped on the top of Everest. You could have chosen the very top tier exchange, no doubt, to engage with, but you didn't. So, is the reasoning behind this because you want this to be more of an organic approach? You want this to be something that builds as you build as a network for utility.
That's very correct. I mean, you can. It's very. We look for an organic way to grow the community, to boost the awareness, because we think that we want to encourage people not only to trade and speculate, but to buy and to hold, to support the network, to run the nodes, to use it, because as you said, it's not for kind of. We're not talking about the long term. We already have the testnet running for like, as I said, almost a year or so. We can start. We'll once the token is launched, we'll initially like start, deploying smart contracts, and building, like launching the network really relatively soon. So that's not a long term. People will be able to use the token to access better internet, basically. So
got it. That's really exciting, and obviously you have a runway. Before I move across to Bill to talk about applications that can be built upon the network, do you have enough funds to sustain you through what some would argue is a bear market? Have you got enough capital to keep going and building your team?
Of course. So that's why we're here. I think I think the hardest moment was to survive. The bear market, the crypto winter. But of course we were like very responsible, I would say, with the current holdings we have, and we invested every cent in acquiring best people. Right now we have a team of 22 people working full time in offices in San Francisco and in Vilnius. It's a pretty huge team. Very experienced network engineers. I think a team which we were really lucky to have this team.
Right.
Okay?
And Dom, in that respect, obviously you've got a team that has the experience, has the credentials. If you'd like to know more, you can go and look at those team members. But how can we also trust that the investors and the team are going to be, supporting the token long term too? And what I mean by that is, are there significant lockups specifically for those parties so we can trust that that'll be the practice of the day and the agenda?
Yeah, it's 2.5 year lockup. Okay. Basically, the team is locked for the whole team is locked for the first 6 months.
Okay, and what about your investors? Did you have any initial investors, seed investors?
Yeah, we have the private investors. Invested in some institutional funds, which helped us as well to get the partners, to get the customers. So we kind of have very good relationship with the investors right now.
Right.
Today, today we're going to be releasing the token metrics and the circulation supply numbers, so the community will be able to take a deeper look, what lockups we have, what will be the distribution, like how much liquidity we expect, in
Well,
building
I
the
really appreciate that transparency. That is so important for us to know. Are you confident that it's well designed so that it is fair?
I think that we really spend a lot of time discussing this and we really did a lot of research. So we believe that it's fair, and we stand behind it, and we believe that we are
Got
doing
it.
the best thing for the project and the best thing for people for in the long term.
Got it. Thanks, Don, for that. Now, going back to the applications, Bill, can you talk us through what's planned on the pipeline or what's planned for the network itself in terms of applications, even internally, that you're planning to utilize the infrastructure to really build upon the systems that you have to advance, with regard to segmented routing, for example?
Sure. I'll start out with the easy ones and then go on to the more forward-looking ones. The easy one is, of course, if there's a better path to a destination, we will find it. And it may include going across one or maybe multiple segment routers to bypass network congestion. Again, this is solving the problem where BGP will happily forward on your traffic along a path that experiences terrible network degradation in the form of 20%, 30% packet loss, in the form of great latency variability, when an alternative path to somebody else's segment router may provide a better path. So routing around congestion is use case number one. Use case number two is interesting too, because you couldn't do this before segment routing. You can today with segment routing force your traffic onto a segment router that's on a premium network. So if you have a super high-end network and a segment router exists on it, you can just send all of your traffic to that premium network segment router and have it do the forwarding along a much better path. So that's kind of like buying economy but getting first class.
All right.
There's some other ones that I'd like to talk about, like MPLS is a very powerful way of utilizing network capacity for the enterprise to allow them to set up things like a private network interconnecting their branch offices. But here again, you're talking about a very expensive, like cloud expensive network connectivity, $25 a megabit per second kind of thing. You'll find enterprises that are large have no problem spending $25,000, $30,000 a month on a MPLS solution. But look what you can do once you open up the programmability of the internet. Now, an end station can say, I want to connect over an encrypted path to my offices that exist around the world and do so over the transit networks, plural, of others that happen to have segment routers. The price of transit drops every year by 20 or 30%. So not only do you have a cheaper MPLS-like solution out of the box, but you also have one where the price goes down as the price of transit goes down. That's pretty powerful for the small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. Now, given that, I wanted to ask you both, and John, please continue on with this enterprise sort of inference, is that once your test nets move to mainnet, surely the potential to expedite the process of adoption, because of exactly what you just said, Bill, is going to be quite rapid. Surely this is all going to move quickly for you in the next few years because of the cost savings alone on this.
Absolutely. There's really not much in the way of a disincentive to download the software, install it on your machine, and be part of the segment routing network. Because once you do, it only opens up the paths that you have to alternative routes. And most folks are buying network that has a lot of upside. They maybe use 5 megabit per second on a 60 megabit per second link. That's a lot of spare capacity that others could share and that the end system can get rewarded for with NOIA coins. So not only it doesn't cost you anything, software is free, it's all open source, but while you're running it, you're earning NOIA coins for the operation of it.
That's a very important point.
So why wouldn't you share your spare capacity when then when you need a better internet path, you can use those coins to get access into your better network path. So there's only for the community. This is all really a distributed blockchain on behalf of this community that we're serving.
Right. Well, let's talk about that more, because I think we need to really highlight this point that using the network can actually afford you financial benefits via the utility or commodity token itself through the reward structure. So Dom, do you want to talk to us a bit more about the benefits of having this bandwidth marketplace and what it means for us as consumers to really optimize the data that we don't use?
So right now we are focusing on releasing an app which will enable you to share your internet connection and to use best internet connection possible automatically. So our NOIA application will help you to get the best connection automatically. So it will go through the directs, through the nodes, and then deliver your traffic in the best way possible. So this is our goal, because we believe that we can create an economy where people share and then they receive. That's a very important point, because once you share something, you need to get something in return. So we want to create an economy where people can have the best internet connection with sharing that internet connection with others.
Absolutely.
So this is our goal, and we are moving fast towards it right now.
Right. Now, when we talk about projects in this environment that we call crypto, often there's a suggestion, every day in fact, that many projects don't require a token. Now, I've really read through the points you've articulated as reasons why you need to have this commodity or this utility that's structured to be one of the key drivers of your whole network. But what do you both want to say about that in terms of responding to the question that whether or not you need to have this token as a representative of the network itself to demarket your value, to enable things like smart routing, future applications, the cache itself?
In order to create a distributed ledger system powered by validators, it's impossible to do it without a digital currency, because you need a digital currency to pay a transaction fee, and you need a digital currency to act as a medium of exchange inside the network. So it acts as a fee for transactions, which is distributed among the validators to support the ledger. So you need to have a native digital asset in order to do that. And in terms of the utility of the token, we definitely see that it creates, we definitely see that people are happily using cryptocurrencies, and it could be it's the only thing which can be tied with the programmable internet ledger, and your personal wallet. So basically, if you have this token, you have access to the programmable internet, and then you use the better internet. You use you utilize it as much as you like, and you pay the transaction fees with it, as you do with Ethereum, whatever.
So essentially, it's the key. It's the key to the entire NOIA system. It's the only way in which you can engage in this programmable internet. Now, the alliances you forge and are part of the core foundation. One of them is the Web3 infra. How important are these kinds of alliances as you build forth and trying to establish strong communities?
It is very important, and we are very eager to partner with other startups which do something similar or something technologically interesting in this space. So this is why we formed this movement of enabling the transition to Web3 infrastructure. We partnered with our close friends, Portal, Bluezell, and KN Network, and we did a great job. We built applications. We focused on building a tool set named Kaizen tool set to launch decentralized applications. Mm-hmm. So that is already moving forward. And we believe that the future is about the cooperation, the interoperability of the networks. So you asked about our competitors, and I answered about the overlays. But essentially, this space is so huge, and to change the internet, we're gonna need, you know, maybe not one network, maybe you know 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 networks, and then to merge those networks together in order to create really a future of the internet. So that's why I'm kind of, we're always looking to cooperate. We're always looking to explore and work together. So this is why we started with Web3, and right now we are working with NKN very closely. We're both in the internet routing space, so we share a lot of good things together, and hopefully you will see more cooperation soon.
Now, with regard to marketing PR, just to finish off, gentlemen, what are you doing to really engage the community, to really educate the people, make sure that not just marketing, but education's on the agenda to strengthen your community?
So like right now we are preparing explanatory videos for regular people to understand what's going on with the internet and why they need to care about it, because it's not only the problems you are facing as an individual, but it's always problems you have to be aware of, you know, that what's happening around you that you don't see sometimes. So we are preparing the explanatory videos, which will basically explain this programmable internet concept really smoothly without any technical you know difficulties. So
Right.
I think that's the key, and we already understood that our concept sometimes it's hard to understand for a regular person. So we'll invest more and more into educating. But if you look at our Medium, you'll see a lot of posts about a lot of articles, a lot of educational stuff about the networks, about how does it work. So we release a lot of material.
Got it. And I've also noticed you're engaging some of the influencers already in the crypto sphere. I would imagine you're going to release articles in more of the mainstream sector. And more importantly, obviously, you're focused on building the community itself to really encourage more organic development of those who just simply want to know more about NOIA.
Yeah.
Right. Well, on behalf of everyone, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both very sincerely. It's been really interesting to learn about what your legit team and your legit tech are doing. Would you like to, either of you, comment as a final statement to address any concerns maybe we've missed, or just to let the community know something that's of key concern to you?
I think that we would like, you know, people to take a look at our technology and the problem we're solving, to read the materials, take a minute, you know, to look at it, because we believe that that's important for everyone, and together we can really do great things. So the best thing about blockchain is this community effect, the people behind it. So we definitely want to see more engagement, more contribution to the network. Let's join forces and work together towards that goal. That's the message.
Thanks. And what about you, Bill?
Well, I think to me the most exciting thing is that we're building a community that will collectively benefit by these better network paths. We have this distributed exchange that will list all of the potential network paths that are available to the collective community, and we're putting together the software that will allow it to work and spread that load out. We sort of view this as we, the community, are buying these internet services. So we, the community, are the ones who are able to position it so that we're sharing some of that infrastructure on behalf of others. And the blockchain is really a way to exchange the fairness of the value that we all derive from that shared ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So I'm able to work with the community and encourage everyone to download the software when it's available.
For sure. And thank you both of you for your time. You represent a very significant team right now, trying to reframe the entire internet itself. You're reprogramming, you're using segmented routing to do that. It's one of your key aspects, and you're melding that with blockchain, which really makes you quite innovative. If you'd like to know more, make sure you check out the description below. All the links will be provided for you. And once again, if you want to know more about the internet, certainly don't hesitate to contact the Telegram or other social media channels for the NOIA network. They are there. they are there for information, for providing a new system and a new way of conceptualizing exactly how we can engage in a new internet of tomorrow. Thank you both of you for your time today, and hopefully in the future we can catch up and break this down into bite-sized chunks so we can really explore what you can do.
Thank you, Brad.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.